Okay, we're back in the shop. What are we working on right now? Well, we're putting together the cam-only engine. That goes in Neil Patel's car. You might have seen it on that Netflix Fastest Car show. Well, we've got a new short block for it. This is a 398 cubic inch configuration. So using the same block, it's 10 over, 6.0 Gen 4 iron. The difference is now it's a 3900 stroke, so we're talking about a Molnar Technology crankshaft 3.90 stroke with their power adder rods. Very great budget combination that will be totally on par with what the factory engine block is capable of. CA625 studs. We got the same Little John Motorsport cam that it already had. It was a proven performer. What we did a little different is instead of running with that hex adjust timing set that failed on it, we've got a really nice Rollmaster, and the cam is advanced 2 degrees in addition to the built-in advance. The reason we're doing that is, as you know, that car has rear mount turbochargers. We're just trying to help them engage earlier. It doesn't have a trans brake, so it does have a little bit of a looser converter. Hopefully the combo of cam advance as well as a looser converter will help him get up in the boost a little bit off the line, but we'll see what happens. You know, can't say until you try it. Also, what's cool is getting deliveries of these Improved Racing parts, so shout out to Improved Racing. They've been making some really cool oil system components. Like this right here is going in my Fox body back there. It's a baffle kit for a CTS V2 pan. So if you know about my cooling system that I put in the car, we're getting that all mounted up right now. In fact, we're getting the intercooler mounted, so all the stuff in the trunk is mounted. We're gonna finish the finalized welding, but you see the battery box there. It has its own frame, solid. Same thing, frame for the fuel cell. And then if you come over, we've got the Deechworks surge tank right there. We're gonna run a Dash 10 feed. These are Dash 10 gravity feeds from the tank, and then Dash 8 return line. And but you know, with the cooler box that I built, this guy right here, so that's powered by refrigerant, and so that water can get down to 28 degrees Fahrenheit before the compressor will turn off. I got a little dial on there, and then we got the air-to-water intercooler. So this air-to-water intercooler is a monster. That's for a Pro Mod car like this one up here. So that Pro Mod, Martin picked this up for that, but that thing's running methanol. We don't need any intercooler on it anymore. And so I'm gonna use that in my street car. It's a monster. I mean, it's twin 12 by 12 by 6 air-to-water cores. And so it's 2 of those. It's called a PT9000. So big boy stuff. You know, definitely overkill for a pair of 76 millimeter turbos, but with ice water pumping through it with giant pumps, I expect the intake air temps to be like nothing. But back to the Improved Racing stuff. You know, with the wet sump oiling system being kind of a limitation on a build like this, definitely want to make sure that you have consistent oiling. You know, I made videos about oil pumps and things like that. Well, this is kind of an additional way to improve the oiling or maintain consistent oiling rather under different G-forces. You know, those baffles essentially operate as trap doors, you know, keeping the oil surrounding the pickup tube. And so the G-forces going in, pulling the oil in one direction will open up one door and close the other. And so the idea is to attempt to center a pool of oil around the pickup tube at all times so it can't suck air under, you know, normal or even aggressive driving circumstances. Another thing they make is like this. This is a windage tray combined with a crank scraper. This one is going into the Trailblazer SS that we got a built motor for. That's a forged LSA engine, so H-beam connecting rod, CP Carrillo Bullet Series pistons, and a factory LSA crankshaft. We're running an M311 pump on there. M365 pump and Frankenstein M311 cylinder heads that flow like 400 CFM on the intake, over 270 on the exhaust. It's got a healthy blower cam. We're going to run it NA for now. He'll come back later for a fuel system and a blower, but it's a nice upgrade over the LS2. Definitely wanted to make sure we took care of the oiling system. Improved Racing didn't make a baffle kit, but I found another company that did, and so essentially it's just like a a plate meant to restrict the backflow of oil away from the pickup tube. So it's not quite as elaborate as the improved racing kit, but it was the best that we could find. And combined with a good oil pump, combined with the crank scraper and an improved windage tray, we're hoping that we keep enough oil in the pan. You know, that's the idea. Like, you know, scraping the crank can be a performance modification, you know, by shearing off some of the oil, but for me, it's also a mechanism to just cause the oil to end up in the pan a little better than it would otherwise. And so we want to give it every advantage possible. I'm out here in the shop space. You know, this is kind of my territory when it comes to physical work. I do a lot of stuff here, but I've got a lot of customer work lined up. I've got a lot of projects to manage that are special media projects. And I got my fabricator in here working his ass off, Robert, to get my car ready. And then I've got to knock out the assembly of the engine. I think what I'm going to do for my YouTube people is, you know, we're going to set the gimbal up or a tripod, and I'll start recording the blueprinting process that happens here at CPR, which will take people through utilizing the tools like the dial bore gauges, you know, the little the calipers and things like that to you know, measure things like, you know, the bore of the engine and piston to cylinder wall clearance, you know, things like oil clearances and stuff like that. Because here we have, you know, we have a build sheet that gets filled out with every engine. And another thing that we're doing is we're going fully digital. And so we've invested in Mitutoyo gauges that are totally Bluetooth to a computer. And so what that means is that there's a lot less, you know, guesswork, I mean, or, you know, reading. You don't have to, like, you know, read the dial and write it down. We have software now that saves every measurement for you. And so the cool thing about those digital gauges is they'll, like, you know, take the smallest measurement and then save it. And so you can move through, it reduces the amount of time it takes to fully blueprint an engine and take all the measurements. Because here, I mean, when you talk about an engine being built, through the machine process, through the blueprint assembly process, the measurements are taken hundreds of times. I mean, you know, and so before and after, I mean, it's just so much. And so sometimes the engines go through the line hone process or need some touch up or something like that to get the oil clearances right. And so there's so many measurements being taken. You know, the Mitutoyo stuff will actually help save a lot of time and add efficiency to our operation. You know, here it's been so busy that I actually cut off sales. Imagine that. I'm the sales manager of this big giant company that you know, builds race engines, and there were so many orders in process that I had to, like, shut it down. Just say, you know what? We're just going to be building inventory. We're not going to try taking too many custom orders. I limited the custom orders to 15 at one time, and so we haven't got down that far yet. We just crossed the 20 engine threshold in terms of existing customer builds. And so since May, we've been kind of like cutting off sales for that kind of stuff. And so engines in this area used to be double stacked with blocks. And so I was a customer of CPR engines, and so I was somebody that got used to having to wait a long time for short blocks to come out of here. It was worth the wait based on the quality, but upon arriving here on a professional level, I realized there's a lot of stuff I could do with my experience in other fields where I could help improve the efficiency of the operation. You know, it's a story here is it's like a small business that started in Martin's home garage. So much success building engines, it turned into this big giant shop. And, you know, it just basically reached a level of volume that required the next level of management. And so that means computers, that means software, that means more tracking, more integration between the office and the floor, and processes in terms of how orders are managed, when parts get ordered, stuff like that. And so the more stuff that we can add organization-wise, the easier his job is, the more he gets to be out here in the shop having fun with me and then being in the videos. And so we're going to be doing a lot more stuff with the videos. We're going to do a lot more stuff to bring value. We're going to be doing a lot of how-to stuff. And in fact, one of the things that we are going to be doing here is we are going to build or offer builder kits, meaning that for aspiring engine builders, we will be able to sell you a fully machined engine block, complete rotating assembly, multiple sets of bearings, so you can kind of learn how, like, Professional engine builders oftentimes, to nail the oil clearances, have to use different bearing shell combinations, and so you may need more than one set of bearings. It's very uncommon in a custom engine build where you're dealing with different engine blocks and different manufacturers, connecting rods, crankshafts. There's so much tolerance stacking that to nail your specific oil clearances, it's usually not going to happen too often with just one set of bearings. And so the specificity here is that intense. And so what we're going to do is we're going to offer different levels of the tooling. And so not only can you buy a complete ready-to-build engine with all the machine work done and all the things you need, from gaskets, everything, we're going to have a tutorial video library for that exact engine that you bought, taking you through the step-by-step assembly process and providing you the tools and teaching you at home how to use the tools in the same manner a professional would do that. How does that sound? Pretty badass. Of course it does. In addition to that, we're going to be taking you in the dyno, because we do a lot of dyno analysis here. That's been something that's been missing from the YouTube game for me and for Martin, is that we've been working together for a long time, got a lot of experience in putting, real combinations together. And I mean, here we are. This is a Motor Trend engine. And so Motor Trend, Airflow Research, companies like that, Edelbrock, will pay us to build an engine for them, and then they'll send us parts to test. And we'll be helping them develop their power packages. I mean, in fact, Martin here had a set of Edelbrock LSR cylinder heads, and he begged them for a manifold. They finally made him one. Well, it came over, and it was 3D printed. So there's the intake right there. And so that intake was actually dyno tested on this 468 tall deck RHS block with those badass aluminum LSR heads. And so this intake manifold that's sitting on there might be the very first Edelbrock cast intake for those cylinder heads. Well, we got that there. We had some custom spacers made. This engine is ready to run. We're gonna get this car going. It's like right around 1,000 horsepower, naturally aspirated hydraulic roller. So got a lot of cool projects going on, and keep taking you inside.